Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. So, I think Elizabeth just done most of the part for me, so I'll have to skip my introduction. But I had prepared just one about me slide there. So my academic history and also my current my professional journey rather. The companies I've worked for and wildlife conservation action, which I'm currently working for back here in Zimbabwe. So we'll just get right onto it, onto the revered birds, the owls. So what is it really about owls? So owls are no doubt an iconic species, from the roles that they play in the ecosystem to being held for different reasons across different cultures. And I'm sure, at least in Africa, most people would know or at least believe something about owls. So this association mainly has subjected to birds to various levels of utilization for belief-based purposes, and basically that's what warranted this study. And I was very lucky to be at a time where I'm in the world's most populous country for the time of conducting this study. So this was the study area. We conducted this study in the whole of Nigeria, but we stratified it into two regions of cultural interest. That is the northern region and the southern region. So the northern and the southern regions of Nigeria are two sides of the same coin, two very different sides with different political and different social status, different also in how they interact with their biodiversity and other aspects of their environment. So in total, we managed to speak to about 1,819 people to find out what they believe about these birds and how they are currently utilizing them in their cultures. So what we actually did was to conduct questionnaire surveys. So in these questionnaire surveys, we spoke to the buyers of our body parts, we spoke to the sellers of our body parts, and we spoke to the middlemen, and we spoke to also just general community members of people surrounding the important bird and biodiversity areas that we were looking at. So we're actually looking at communities surrounding different important bird and biodiversity areas in the two regions. And then we also conducted market observations at the different traditional medicine markets. So this is where we spoke with, this is where we observed rather people in their natural space or how they interact whilst purchasing or going about their daily traditional medicine market trading. And then for data analysis, we mainly conducted the Pearson chi-square test in Gigi State's plot package in R. So these pictures are just some of the questionnaires we were conducting with the community elders. So these were also our entrance negotiations interview. We did this with the local leadership for every community that we visited prior to going to speak with the other community members. So during this study, what is it that we were checking for? So we firstly were checking for the overall level of our knowledge between these two regions. So how do people know what owls are? Do people know what owls look like? So we gave them a few picture guides to help guide them, and we also played them polls, of which they would say if that was an owl or it was not an owl or it was something they'd never heard in their life entirely, just to kind of get an idea of where they stand in terms of their knowledge with these nocturnal birds. And then we're also simultaneously checking for frequency of encounter. So how often are these birds being seen in the communities around these IBAs? How often are these birds being heard? Uh, so this was also to give us a very rough indication of the current standing of the populations of these birds. And then we're also looking at trying to understand the factors influencing our body part trade. So different things like the demographics, the age of the people involved in our body part trades, the occupations, their level of education, and other social barriers like that. And then we're also comparing the uses of different our body parts and their prices across the the two regions. So this was also informing just the general availability of our body parts at the traditional medicine markets. And from our survey, this is the demography for our respondents. So in terms of gender, most of our respondents were males because our pool for females was quite limited by cultural limitations, particularly in the north, because females were mainly restricted to the household and were not allowed to speak to other external people. So that made a number of females that we spoke to quite different from the number of males. And then in terms of age, the age structure of our respondents was quite aligned with that with the general age structure of Nigeria, with the majority of our respondents falling between the 31 to 50 age class, and then followed by the 16 to 30 age class, and then followed by the senior citizens, which contributed the least number of respondents to our survey. And then in terms of education, majority of our respondents also reported to have reached secondary level, being the highest educational qualification, then followed by primary school level. Few of them had managed to progress to tertiary level, and then in the north, fair number of our respondents were also into Islamic education as their main form of education. And then in terms of income, at the time of this study, majority of our respondents were earning between 15,000 Nigerian naira to 30,000 Nigerian naira per annum. And then followed by the 30,000 to 60,000 income range. In terms of the results, this is what we found. So in terms of the knowledge, especially with reference to identification of pictures, our Pearson chi-square test revealed that there's a significant difference between the levels of knowledge of owls in the northern and southern regions of Nigeria, and we particularly notice that northerners know more about owls, as they were able to identify more owl pictures and calls accurately. So we attribute this result to the fact that northerners also reported having a more agro-based lifestyle. So through that lifestyle of being farmers primarily, they would inherently appreciate the role that owls play in terms of pest control, especially rats, as opposed to southerners who really wouldn't quite grasp that concept. So this is the graph showing that northerners also recognized more owl calls than southerners. And then in terms of the frequency of encounter, we notice that there's somewhat similar frequency of encountering owls in both the regions. And then this then led us to thinking that the utilization, therefore, of these birds boils down to the lifestyles adopted in the different regions and also the subsequent cultural associations in the two regions. And then we further subsetted our data sets to account for people confirmed that they've been actively involved in our body part trade within the last 2 years. And our classical test revealed that there's a significant difference between the level of knowledge of our body part traders in the northern and in the southern region. And what also this led us to this another insight that this graph provided for us was that body part traders are very knowledgeable about the species that they trade in. For example, you would get people that would actually say that we use the African wood owl for specific reasons that the northern faced owl would not be used for. So just that mere ability to separate the two species and have different uses for them shows that they're knowledgeable about the species that they trade in, and that the knowledge that they have is generational knowledge that takes years to master. Therefore, it's not the business of trading is not quite as open to everyone as it may seem. And then from the market surveys, our respondents reported seeing different owl species at the market, and there was a significant difference between the northern and the southern region as well for this. So majority of our respondents, that's about 280, reported seeing barn owls at the markets, whilst about 192 reported seeing the northern white-faced owl. And these were most commonly seen in the northern markets as opposed to the southern markets. And we attributed this to effects that we noticed during the market observations in the way that the traditional medicine markets are set up. So in the northern regions of Nigeria, you get the traditional medicine markets adopting an open setup where the dealers just kind of lay down all of their medicines, and then they're available for public viewing by whoever and whenever. Unlike in the south, where the markets adopt more of a closed setup, and you actually have to inquire for something before it's shown to you or it's given to you. So that would explain why southerners said they were not as familiar as the northerners with seeing different owl species at the markets. So whilst at the markets, these are some of the observations that we made. There's owl feet for sale, owl heads. There were also carcasses ranging from between 3,000 to 5,000. That's the northern white-faced owls there. So as you can see from the pictures, these pictures were taken from a typical traditional medicine market in the north. You can see that there's a whole lot of other medicines on display. So the reported uses of our body parts from these two regions were also quite strikingly different, with northern Nigeria reporting more of physical centered reasons for using our body parts, so to cure physical ailments. And then also interestingly, just one village also mentioned that they use our body parts to make love potions and also to locate aquifers. That was very new for me, and I thought it worth mentioning, but it's not a response that we got from a lot of places. It was just a unique village in northern Nigeria at Adejanguru wetlands. And then the overall prices for our body parts ranged from 200 naira, that is for one head, or for one claw, that would be 200 naira, whereas the full carcass would range from 3,000 naira, depending on your negotiation skills as well. And then in the south, the reasons that we got tended to be more magical or more psychologically centered. So you would get people saying that they use art to get good fortune in the lottery, and also to be able to disappear in times of conflict. and also to be prosperous. So majority of the reasons that we got in the southern region were mainly centered around promoting oneself and their need for wealth. And then the prices were also notably much higher than the ones in the north. And also, what we noticed in terms of the utilization of these body parts whilst at the markets is that the demand seems to be much higher in the southern Nigeria as compared to the north. From our interactions with the people who sell these body parts, when we got to several of the markets in northern Nigeria, we actually found the owls, and they apparently were not in demand because they'd had them for a long time. One of the carcasses that we had there that was shown in the pictures, they actually had to go and look for it because they'd even taken it away from the display because no one was really asking after it. So when we got there, they're like, "Oh, we had this carcass for over 6 months, so you can give us 3,000 naira, we'll give it to you." Whereas in the south, almost all of the markets that we went to, the materials were all reportedly sold out. And upon further inquiry on when we would be able to get these materials, obviously not actually get them, but just to get the idea, they would say, if you come back tomorrow around midday, you'll find we can have the materials that you want for you. So this shows that the people in the south are more actively involved in actually harvesting these birds to support the very high demand um, at the traditional medicine markets. So in terms of the demographic factors influencing trade, we our results revealed that age is not a significant predictor of our body part trade, although it's notable that within each region, it's the people that are between 31 to 50 that are involved in trading this our body part. We attribute this to the fact that between the ages of 31 to 50 is where kind of the societal pressure starts to come in hard, and you have to support your older family whilst also simultaneously supporting the younger family. So between the ages of 31 to 50, that's where um, majority of the traders are likely to be, although this was the same in both of the regions. And then in terms of gender, there was also a significant difference between both regions and also within each region. We noticed that males are the ones that are primarily involved in the trade. This aligns with societal expectations where males are supposed to be the providers of the household. So they actually have to provide by any means necessary, even if it includes taking part in trading in biodiversity of our body parts. And then in the northern region, females are entirely restricted to the household. So our results were consistent with the societal setup. And then in terms of income, we also notice that income is not a significant predictor of our body part trading tendencies. And what this highlighted to us is that culture generally supersedes all external influences. So I'm saying external influences, I mean the education structure that we typically adopt, where one goes to primary school, secondary school, and then to college. And also culture supersedes any kind of income that one could be getting, because as we have seen that particularly in the south, one could be having a high income because they're involved in our body part trade, so they actually have to keep that going in order to maintain. So it's not really a matter of people resorting to our body part trade because they're poor, but some just started making their wealth with that, so they maintain kind of that that part that path of making making wealth. And then in terms of occupation, we also notice that in both regions, farmers are more likely to partake in our body part trade. And we alluded this to the fact that farmers with the current situation, the changing climate, unpredictable climatic patterns, farmers are mostly hardly are the most farmers feel the most of the climate situation in terms of unpredictable harvests. So when things go wrong in the farm, they're therefore left with no option to fall back on, and they end up resorting to trading in our body parts, uh, amongst other means to try and support their families. And then lastly, education, there's also no significant difference in terms of the level of education and how that influenced our body part trade. So this also goes back to the point that culture still supersedes all kind of education and income. So what do these results then mean for our conservation in Nigeria, our conservation in Africa? So from this study, these were our recommendations. We recommend that there's need to build up on these findings. So need to perform a much longer term study, qualitative study, targeting the traditional healers and the hunters and potential customers. The main reason for this, especially with reference to it being a long term study, is to build on trust, since this study is very sensitive. So kind of having a trust base with these people would also enable us to collect very accurate information over time. And then also there's need to create platforms to ensure constant engagement with stakeholders such as local communities and traditional leaders and cultural practitioners, to ensure that we constantly have that open dialogue and trust, which is essential in order to maintain reliable results for studies such as this one. And then a rather big one for me would be the sustainable livelihood options. These, I believe, could ease the pressure of belief-based trade-off out, because it's difficult when you go to a body part trader, for example, and then you're preaching the gospel of conservation to them, but then they're saying this is my business and it's what's been keeping my family going for the last couple of generations. So this gospel of conservation that you're bringing, what therefore do I get to gain from it? So there's need to come up with sustainable livelihood alternatives for the people, so that we can ease the pressure of belief-based trade-off hours. And then particularly and more interestingly, when we spoke to the people at the markets, um, some of them mentioned something interesting, that they don't actively kill these birds, but they find them dead, and then they just try to capitalize on the situation. So we got this response from several people, um, and it warranted us to thinking that there's probably need to to have more ecological studies on these nocturnal birds, so that we can find out what's actually happening to them in the bush and why they're ending up um, at the markets, without also not 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 disregarding the fact that this could have been an excuse that that traders were using, but just the mere amount of people that we got mentioning this um, led us to putting this down as a recommendation for the study. So, as Elizabeth initially mentioned, I would like to acknowledge the staff of APLORI for ensuring that this project was done, and also was done in great time. and then University of Jos and the Reptile Research Foundation for also supporting the carrying out of this research in the entire of Nigeria. So thank you for listening. We're now open to questions.
Thank you, Joan, for this very interesting talk. It's impressive that how much culture has an influence regardless of education or income. I'm actually very impressed of your work and in results. Before we pass to the questions, I think Matthew will translate this in French briefly for our West African partners, although you have done it in Nigeria. We also have groups from French-speaking countries. So Matthew, please take over, and then we will open microphones and videos for questions and interactive discussions. Thank you again, Joan.
Ok.
Thank you.
Donc, bonjour à tous. Et donc, je vais faire une traduction et un résumé rapide de la présentation de Joan. Donc, elle a travaillé notamment avec l'Institut APLORI. Et donc, elle s'est intéressée à l'utilisation et le commerce des rapaces nocturnes au Nigeria. Et donc, durant cette étude, ils ont sélectionné 5 zones au nord et au sud et ont mené des investigations au niveau des populations, notamment avec des questionnaires. Et donc, ils ont pu interroger environ 1800 personnes sur leurs croyances par rapport aux rapaces nocturnes, leur utilisation et la place qu'ont ces oiseaux dans la culture locale. Et donc, en parallèle, ils ont aussi mené des investigations sur les marchés locaux pour voir justement un petit peu quelles étaient les parties du corps notamment et les différentes espèces qui étaient proposées aux clients et qui étaient les vendeurs de ces rapaces nocturnes. Et donc, ils sont aussi intéressés à la façon dont les parties du corps étaient utilisées en médecine traditionnelle, notamment avoir une estimation un peu des prix au niveau du marché. Et durant leur enquête, donc à la fois sur les populations du sud du Nigeria et du nord du Nigeria, ils ont proposé des photos pour pouvoir voir si les personnes étaient capables de reconnaître différentes espèces. Ils sont aussi intéressés à la fréquence des rencontres entre ces communautés locales et les rapaces nocturnes. Ils ont catégorisé les populations interrogées en fonction de leur classe sociale, notamment en fonction de l'âge des personnes interrogées, de leur niveau d'éducation, de leurs revenus. Et un des résultats qui était intéressant, c'était que les personnes donc plutôt du nord du Nigeria semblaient plus familiers avec les différentes espèces de rapaces nocturnes. Et ils ont notamment constaté durant leur enquête que sur les marchés locaux, dans le nord, on trouvait beaucoup plus d'espèces de rapaces nocturnes que dans le sud. Et donc, concernant l'utilisation des différentes parties du corps, dans le nord, donc c'était surtout utilisé comme remède, notamment pour les maladies mentales, si j'ai bien compris. Aussi sous forme de décoction pour par exemple, pour séduire, en tout cas en lien avec l'amour, donc pour séduire d'autres personnes, aussi pour chercher de l'eau apparemment. Et concernant l'utilisation dans le sud, donc là, c'était plus pour un profit personnel, donc par exemple gagner à la loterie ou tout simplement pour favoriser sa prospérité personnelle. Et donc, concernant les vendeurs, ils se sont rendus compte que c'était surtout les fermiers qui menaient un petit peu ce commerce et que c'était notamment une source de revenus importante pour eux. Et donc, à l'avenir, j'aimerais faire, Joan, et donc l'équipe qui travaille sur cette problématique, c'est peut-être de proposer une étude quantitative un peu plus importante, notamment d'ouvrir le dialogue avec les communautés locales, discuter un petit peu déjà étudier l'importance écologique de ces espèces et dans leur habitat, estimer les populations, la santé des populations, et et essayer de trouver des alternatives, notamment aux personnes qui dépendent de ce commerce, de leur proposer d'autres alternatives, d'autres sources de revenus pour justement essayer de diminuer ce commerce des rapaces nocturnes. Et voilà.